By my clock, it is the top of the hour, and we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Anton. I manage business development with Gideon Taylor, and I am very excited to be kicking off this webinar, this Lunch and Learn today with Jeremy Walden, Senior Advisor with Madison College's Early College program. Just as a quick housekeeping, a couple of quick housekeeping notes. We are recording this, and we'll be sending out links to the recording after the webinar. Probably won't go out this afternoon, but within the next couple of days, you should receive that via email. We encourage you to go ahead and share that with others from your teams that might not have been able to join the webinar today. That will be posted both on our website and I think on our YouTube channel. As we go along, we encourage you to ask questions. We like for these to be interactive, so feel free to post questions in either the chat or the Q&A feature within Teams, and we're more than happy to take a pause to respond to those. I'll be keeping an eye on those, as will Scott Livingston, our VP of Marketing, and we'll go ahead and poke Jeremy if there's a question in the queue. That being said, I think we can go ahead and get things kicked off formally. I'm excited to hear what Jeremy has to say, because I was involved in some of the early conversations with Madison College when they first brought this idea to the table about using GT eForms to help them automate their early college workforce strategies program to enable eForms-based interactions, allowing for students to enroll in college courses while they're in high school. So this particular solution that Jeremy is going to be discussing and demonstrating today allows not only for internal use within Madison College of managing these applications, but also allowing for students, and through the support of their counselors or their partners, help them enroll using the eForms application to do so, communicating directly with Madison College, integrated with their PeopleSoft campus solutions system. And then it also can involve parents in terms of authorizing eForms-based applications. So there are some really cool things, features that have been brought to bear as part of this overall solution that we helped Madison College design and develop. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand the microphone over to Jeremy. Jeremy, it is all yours. And thank you on behalf of Gideon Taylor and the broader GT eForms family. We're excited to hear what you have to say.
Good. Thank you. Let me share my screen real quick here. I have multiple Doom monitors going on here, and so all of a sudden, everything switched around. Give me just a second. Always test these, and then when you get into the real thing, it does not. You are seeing the slide, correct?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, as you said, a quick introduction. I am Jeremy Walden. I am a senior academic advisor within Early College. So Early College itself is a department within Madison College that serves our high school partners and our students. We roughly have about 6,000 students participating in some type of program. Today, I am talking specifically about our most complex form that we are using within the system, which is our Start College Now application. It's very complex because of the amount of individuals who it has to be routed to, and who actually, both internally, but mainly externally, how many people have to be routed, and the complexity of it. And really, this form, when I started at the college 5 years ago, was something our unit had one of those pipe dreams to make into a usable form that is external and is digital, because the complexity of it is right now it is also built off of a form that is created by the state. So we have to guidelines, we have to make sure everything is done correctly, and there's just so many things we never thought we would get to, and we are finally here, and we finally have a workable form that is digital and is helping with a lot of different issues. And so I'm going to use the term SCN a lot today. So what SCN is short for is Start College Now, which is a state legislated program in Wisconsin that allows juniors and seniors to take up to 18 credits at a state technical college. So if you see here SCN, I just wanted to let you know what that is. It's an acronym that we use, and I know I'm going to go to that a lot in here, and you'll see it a lot in the slides. So as I said, this was kind of a pipe dream for us 5 years ago when we first started having conversations. And as I was telling GT people just a few minutes ago, this was a part of a huge overhaul in our department that was really a 3-year experience where we overhauled a lot of different technology within our department to kind of really bring us up to speed with where everyone is technology wise. We had a lot of paper, pencils, a lot of manual stuff going on, and we wanted to make it more user friendly. And really, when we did that, we were considering 4 people's experience along with our states. So our students' experience, first and foremost, what is the experience they're gaining with us to become students here? Parents. Parents are a big part and a small part. So they're a very small part in our process because even though they're high school students, we do not do a lot of back and forth with parents, but we do have to have signatures. We do have to have them sign off because we are working with minors. And then our K-12 partners experience. So we are a technical college in the state, and we serve about roughly 9 different counties in the state of Wisconsin. Our biggest county is Dane County, where Madison is located. And then we serve all of Jefferson County, which is another fairly large county in the middle of is South Central Wisconsin. So it's 43 school districts that we serve, and I think we're up to about 52 high schools with all the schools that are being built around here. Then our staff experience. While we have a lot of students, just like everyone, we have limited staff resources. So what are our staff experiences? What could we do to make our staff's job easier? And then finally, everything we did, we had to get approval, and we have to comply with what the state of Wisconsin wants and our state technical college district office. So the first, this is actually our current form. And so as you can see, the state form is actually 2-page handwritten form. There is fillable PDFs. And one of the things have found though over the years, when you work with high school students, most of their electronic devices come from school districts, and school districts use Chromebooks. Chromebooks are nice for school districts because they're affordable. However, they don't have a lot of bells and whistles, and a lot of problems we have with students is the ability for them to actually use a fillable PDF. And many school districts have blocks on all those different types of apps that they can put on their Chromes and things, and students can't get to fill those fillable PDFs, so they are printing them out, they're handwriting them, and that just causes a whole lot of issues that we'll cover throughout this. This is our current workflow just to get our before Gideon Taylor, what our workflow was to get a form into our system so we could start advising a student. I'm not zooming in because we're kind of looking at everything individually, but it really goes from parents to our students and parents to the partners, and then when you get over to past those first 2 boxes, that's all internal processes to get to this final bottom little barrel where that means it's moving into PeopleSoft. So there's a lot of different processes just to get to there. So what I'm going to move into is what each little section of our application and how we solved all of our issues with that using Gideon Taylor. So section 1 of our Start College Now is actually our most, I'll spend the most amount of time in here because this is the student-facing part, and it is the part that takes students and parents the longest part. The main issues with this is all of the information a student is putting in their application was written by hand. It's very often illegible. Information they put on this sheet often didn't match what they were building their Madison College account with. So what the information we had in PeopleSoft on their Madison College account wasn't matching what their application was saying. This was a major issue. It is and was a major issue because the way we were matching applications to their accounts uses different data sets from the application to the account. Mainly their first and last name, date of birth. We could use other things as needed, but we had students who were using nicknames on applications and full names in their account, or vice versa. They were actually not making their accounts with their legal name, but they put their legal name on this application. And so the system doesn't catch them when we were doing it manually that way. And that's where you kind of saw that big box in that first slide of all the routing that had happened, because we had to manually search for these things and send out emails saying, please make a Madison College account, because we couldn't even get them into PeopleSoft until they had that Madison College account. The second major issue is the lower part of this is students have to look up classes that Madison College offers to put down that they want to take here to submit to their high school. The only place you can really find this is on Madison College website. It's not straightforward where it is. So if you're a student, if you've never been on Madison College's website and you don't know it, you're not really sure what you're looking for and how to find it. So it was a very complex way of looking up classes. So we'd have students putting on classes that didn't exist at Madison College, or different names, or, they'd do a Google search and find an old course catalog from Madison College that was from 10 years ago somehow, and put in classes we don't have anymore. So this would cause a lot of issues, because if it's not on this form, the school districts don't pay for them. They don't allow you to, if they say we'll let you take class X, but class X doesn't even exist anymore, and you want to take a different class, the school district has said, no, that's not one we approve. So really making sure that the students have the correct classes that are actually offered at our college on their forms is important, so that they're actually allowed to take them. So how the GT form fixed this? Our first section of the form is actually that top part. The biggest thing about GT forms is they had to have an account, a Madison College account, to access it. So if a student doesn't have an account, they are prompted to create that first. And once they create it, then the form is available to them to fill out. So we're really taking a part that was at the end of the process. Student filled out the form, went to their high school, it gets sent to us, and then we send them, hey, we need you to make a Madison College account, and we're putting it on the front end. That is helping because they're already in PeopleSoft. They have an account in PeopleSoft, they have the availability, and so all that data that's being pulled on this form lives in PeopleSoft, and so they're connected through that. So we're not having a student that on a form that doesn't exist, and then having to do all that chasing down of a student afterwards. That's a lot of manpower for Madison College. it really delays the process when we talk about enrolling a student. Our students do have priority enrollment, but often we had students who are not getting their account created in time to actually get to that enrollment date. So there's a lot of internal things that this was causing. And then the other thing is, because it's a web form, it's filled in all the missing pieces that students need is filled in digitally, and we can actually read it. So quite often that's was one of our big issues. One of the other things we really focused on when we worked with Gideon Taylor is understanding that our high school students don't always have the time or aren't always doing this in a place where they are going to spend all the time they need to fill out this form in one place. Or maybe they would start the form in the school with a teacher or a counselor or somebody there, but then want to go home and finish the form with their parents, or start with their parents but need to go to school and talk to somebody at the school. So making sure that they had the ability to save and return at any given time before they submit was very important to us. So having that ability was also built in. The next section is kind of that parent guardian, but it's still the same things. The other thing that this has allowed us to do is build in some of our tools that we use as advisors and internally into the application process. When the form that was being used that was controlled and developed by the state is a general form for all of our technical colleges to use, but it didn't allow us, we weren't allowed to make a paper copy that asked different questions. But in doing this, we were able to answer questions that were going to really help us and save us and the students time down the road. One of the big things and you'll see this little red circle throughout this thing. Anytime you see that red circle, this is something that's not on the original form that we created. So you'll see throughout how many additional pieces of information we're able to gather. Such as being able and asking if parents want text messages, letting them enroll in it, asking students, would they rather us call them or email them? Those were all important because we have some students who, if I text them, they get back to me in 10 minutes. If I send an email, they never check it. Or I have the opposite, students who never text. And if anyone has kids that have phones like I do, I look at my son's phone and he has the little red bubble of 1,000 unread text messages. Gets a little concerning about what students are looking, but same as emails. So really understanding what the student wants and the way they prefer to communicate is important to us. The parent information that's on here is no different than the parent information we were already getting from the paper form. However, it is important because it is a part of our next step in the process. The other big thing that, believe it or not, was happening a lot was we had students who were putting on high school names that were different than the high schools in our systems because we use the full official names because they come from transcripts, etc. in the system, and students were using abbreviations for those schools, partial names. We have high schools that have changed names recently in our district. So students were using old names or new names, and they weren't always matching our system. So we're using our external org table to ensure that the student's name that they're putting on their application is actually a school in our district and in our system. Again, this program details this whole thing, other than that semester you wish to start, are all things we're able to gather to help us as advisors, to help our recruiters understand if a student's wanting to come here after high school. There's a whole lot of things we use that for. But the big part of this that we now have built in is that that's part of that course selection. We built in the course lookup right into the form. So the student doesn't have to go to our website. All they have to do is click on that search button, and they're going to get into our catalog, and they're going to be able to see the courses that we have available that they can select. And then all that information is going to be pulled into their form, and it's going to be correct. It's going to match our catalog number. It's going to match the name of the class as it is in our catalog and available. And because of us controlling the form, we also can control what classes they see. We have degree and continuing education classes. These students are only taking degree classes for the most part, so we can tell our catalog in this form not to go searching for those continuing education classes, or not to be searching for, we have some college prep classes that are not available to high school students. We have HSED classes, so kind of limit what they see to the classes that they could actually take here. We also have the ability to allow them to search by different ways. The top left is they can look by just a part of a course title. They know it's an English class and they know the word is English and in there. They can look at it and it's going to bring up everything that they need, any class that has the word English in it. Or the top right, where it's talking, they know the exact name of the class. They put the whole thing in and it just brings that course up. I know I'm taking intro to psychology. I'm going to put that in. There's the class. Or they might not know what class they want to take, but they know what subject. They can search by subject. So that bottom one is just by searching by subject. That's a math class. Pull up everything in our math. So it allows students, yeah.
Sorry, this is Scott. I've got a quick question on that.
Yep.
Do you have any classes that are based on the high school that the student is in? Are there certain high schools that allow for certain Madison College courses to be available versus others, or are all the same courses available to students regardless of which high school?
So for the application, and we'll kind of get to this later on the high school side of it, the application, students are able to ask for any class that we allow them to take. It is up to every single school district. And that's a very complex question. And the reason is the state statute is very broad. It allows schools districts to interpret and make decisions. There are also not black and white answers to that. I'm just going to give you the easiest example for that is a class like Anatomy and Physiology 1 at Madison College. A school district might let some students take it and other students not take it. They might have a rule in their district where if the student had taken the high school version of Anatomy and Physiology, they can now take the college version. But if they haven't taken the high school version yet, they won't allow them to. So putting a rule in that into PeopleSoft does not work because every school district looks at every single student's application and they have to look at their policy and the student's background to make decisions. So even the same school might have one student allowed to take something and another student not to.
Right. Okay. So thank you.
We are just worrying about our side. And then we have a part of the form at the end is the ability for the high school to tell us if they're okay with it. So
cool. Thanks.
Yeah. That would have been probably another 5-year project just to figure out what that looks like. But and unfortunately, districts with teacher shortages and changes of teachers are changing all the time what they're allowing. We used to never have high schools basically allow students to take, English 1, which is AP English classes, because most of them had them, and now half of our schools don't even have AP English anymore because they don't have the teachers to teach it. So we have more and more students taking classes they didn't. That really is changing yearly. So Kind of the last really nice part of section 1 that we are able to do is this additional program requirements you see there is not something you would normally see, obviously, when you're looking at just a non-electronic form. It does not show up on the student because the student I use for this test to pull all my screenshots on here actually has their ACT scores on file. So it's reading that the student meets all the requirements. But say the student did not have their ACT scores on file with us, it would give them an alert that says ACT scores or AccuPlacer scores are required to take these classes. The student knows that right up front because we have students who have no idea how to read our course catalog or any course catalog for that matter to see, hey, I'm going to have to have a test score for this. And then they get to the point where they've gone through all this process and they get an email from me or one of my colleagues saying, hey, looks like you put on a class that we need ACT scores for, or we need you to take the AccuPlacer score. And they're like, I don't have ACT scores and I don't want to take a test. So they've taken all this time to do it, and then they get frustrated that they didn't know this. They're like, well, there's other classes that don't have a test. Well, yes, but they're not on your form, and so the school district's not going to allow you to take them. So this allows them to kind of see all the information up front in an easy format. It also allows them then to put a file attachment if they have their ACT scores, if they have AccuPlacer scores, if they have a transcript that is needed for that class, they can attach it right to this application, and we'll get it right away when the application is submitted to us at the very end. So that way we're not chasing them down for this stuff either. And it gets them enrolled quicker. And then the acknowledgement right there, again, that's the signature. It's taking place of section 3 on our thing, has a student and parent guardian signature. That acknowledgement is replacing the student's signature. This is important, and this will be talked about again when we get to the next section, but the state regulations require that these forms and these applications are signed by a student and their parent by a specific date or 2 different dates in the calendar year. With them being in here, we now have control to actually make sure we're complying with this. Because if they try to submit it after the date for that semester, or if they try to say, I'm applying for this semester on this date, our system tells them you've missed the deadline, but you can apply for the next semester. So it allows us to really control making sure we're complying with state deadlines on that as well. The last big thing we wanted to make sure our students and our schools and our parents all were really good communications throughout this process. So at any point when actions are taken, we have a lot of different communications that people get. So that top one right there is just a email that if they saved it, they will get a, hey, you just saved this email, and it gives them a direct link to go right back into that form. So they don't have to go searching for it. They don't have to they don't have to save it on their computer and keep it pulled up. It allows them to go right back to their form from that email. And then the next one is one saying, hey, congratulations, you've actually submitted this. Now this is going to your parent for their signature. So they know that, hey, you've done it correctly, and the next thing to do is your parent's going to do it. And in that email, I think it's interesting, but this is one of those things working with high school, we tell them, make sure your parent and guardian knows it's coming. Talk to them. Make sure you're communicating with them that they know that it's coming and what it is, so that they're not kind of blindsided by this random email they get. And then there is one more email sent out. In this, Rosie is making a decision when they get the submitted form of if the parent they put down has or does not have guest access into our system already. If they do not have guest access, they get that first email prompting them to create a guest access account, saying that their kid had submitted a form that they need to get signed, And to do that, they need to create this account. And they click that account activation link, and it takes them right into our activation system. The bottom one is if the student or if the parent already has that guest access. We have a lot of students who, because it's 11th and 12th grade program, take classes every semester starting their junior year. Or we have lots of siblings. Their older sibling took it. And so that way, this way, the parent does not have to recreate it every time the student does it. And they, Rosie finds them and says, hey, go right there. It gives them a direct link to that specific application, and they can go in and do their part of it. This is taking place of Section 3, which is the parent guardian signature. Again, this is really making sure it's being done in the time frame that the state requires. And it's verifying parent guardian signing paperwork. More times than you would imagine, I have reached out or had a conversation with a parent, and they have said, I didn't even know my kid was looking at doing this. And I would say, hey, yes, you do. I have your signature on a piece of paper. And I'd be like, that's not my signature. So student, not that any student did it on purpose, more than likely, they probably just were like, I just want to get this done, and they didn't do this. So hopefully this is allowing parents to also know and be a part of this process all the time. Our guest setup is pretty quick and easy. When they hit that account link, it's going to take them to choose an account for Microsoft, and then it's going to ask them to sign into Microsoft Online, and then we give them our permissions, and they hit accept. Once it does it, Rosie will pick them up, and they will get that second email. And then they just sign right into our Madison College account using that guest access in that second email, and they click right in to their student's application. They see a very simple application. Student details, we don't give them all the student details. They should know that their student lives, which address they live in. They don't need to see all this other information that's already in there. We just want them to know, here are the courses, here might be some additional requirements, and then acknowledge and sign the form. This is another place that's allowed us to add questions or get permission from parents. We have some things, again, being minors, that our students have to have signed by their parents, that we were actually sending in an email way down the road for two students to get to their parents to sign. How many of those we got back was so, I would say, less than 5%, because students didn't get them to them. And so then when something happened that we needed one of these forms, we'd have to be going to the parents at that point in time instead of having it on file. This allows us to collect that information again from the parent up front, so it's on file. The first one is a Madison College counseling form right there. So if we have mental health counselors, and if you're under 18, you have to have a parent guardian signature to seek their assistance. We have some other ones that are being added onto this form. They're being updated right now, that's why you don't see them. But permission to publish, different things that we need parent signature. This is allowing us to get it and get it early and to have it. The last thing is they are asked to digitally acknowledge the application and all those forms, as I was saying. And then we allow them to put comments in here. Like, on this one, many parents want to know, how is this going to work in my student's schedule? Well, that's really not a question for us, because we work very closely with high schools, and high schools are the ones who kind of dictate, student needs these 3 classes. These are the times available to come to us, or they need to take an online class? And we can't really always answer that, but it's always good for us to know that that's a question that a parent has, or whatever the other questions are, or a comment. Maybe they're really excited. Maybe this is something they really want, but it allows them to free form and put comments, questions, whatever they want to in this form. Then they hit approve. So it's really not complex for the parent, but it really hopefully is getting us the information we need at a better pace and scale, and making sure that they're seeing clearly what their students are looking to do. Again, the communication is very important. When a parent hits an approve message, it's going to give them an on-screen message saying they've actually done it right. I mean, I actually appreciate when I submit something and I immediately know that I've done it right. We've received this. It's going to the next person. In this case, it's going to tell them who it's going to. So every school on the back end, we have worked with the schools to designate someone in the school that it goes to. So we'll say that person's name. So they'll know who at their school got this and received it. So if there's any question, they're not then going also around saying, hey, I submitted this, who am I talking to? They're going to know that school, this is who I'm going to. They get an email themselves. Thank you for the application. It's been sent to the school. And then we want to make sure that student also knows that their parent has completed it successfully. So they get that information. And then the last one is actually what kicks us into the last and final step of this whole application process with our external people. It goes to the K-12 partner. So it will say, hey, dear, and it will give them a direct link again to that student's application. Our partners also can come through because they have a different type of guest access than our parents. They will also have ability to go into like a work list if they, we do have some schools that send, I have one school, it's a single high school that probably sends 40 to 50, 60 people per semester. So they would have to be doing this with all of them. Our major Madison Metropolitan School District, actually their district office handles the forms. So we have one person down at district who handles forms for 6 different high schools. So his work list is up in the 200s, like, so it allows them to have it all in one place again. Or they can go into every single email. But our bigger schools prefer to have the work centers. So this also, with the K-12 partners, there's actually 2 sections that they have to do every single time, and they're on 2 separate pages of the application. The first one is approving each individual class that the students put on. They can say yes or no, and then they have to also do a couple things about their credits and all that stuff on this form. And then on the back, it has to be signed. And that signature is what is allowing us to build them, because all these classes are paid for by the high school. So we have to basically have some type of authorization to build them. I had a whole packet of these when we had a new person last year that did not get this signed. So we had to send them back. They then sat in that person's inbox because they missed them for an additional month and a half. And then about half of their students actually didn't get in the first choice of their classes because it took us so much time going back and forth to get them done properly with new people in. So this system will not allow them to send us incomplete forms, which is really nice. Then again, we've created, if you saw that first thing with all those classes, they were like check boxes. It's kind of dark because they don't want students doing it. So it's kind of, the state is trying to distinguish this is not for students to do, it's for the school district. But then if a school district does it and then scans it on a scanner, sometimes you can read it, sometimes you can't. They use a pencil, you can't read it all the way at the time. Sometimes they make a mistake and they check the wrong box. They check the box that thanks for intro to psych, but check it in English, and it just causes a lot of problems. So this allows to do the exact same thing on that in a drop-down form, yes, no. And then they put that number of high school credits on there. And the reason that's a free form is again, the state leaves it up to the high schools on how to write their policy on how our credits transfer to a high school. So one school might say 3 college credit class is high school, 1 full credit. Some of our districts say every college credit is 0.25. So it just becomes messy for us to do a specific conversion. It allows them to do it themselves. And then this is where we really are wanting to make sure that we understand is the school is saying, yes, I'm going to pay for this class, or no, I'm not going to. Some school districts, because of the way the old form was, would mess up the wrong thing, and we would bill them and say, no, that's not what the one we approved to pay for, but we say, yes, it was. Look at this form. They say, oh, we just marked it wrong. Again, we're just gathering that real specific, yes, we are paying for this class. And that's really an ask from our student financials, who was another, one of many internal stakeholders we worked with throughout this process. They then, this next part is that section 5, that's replacing that signature. It's just going to have their name, email. It does get pulled in from the, again, from PeopleSoft, because we're the ones who have said, this is a person who's approving it. And then they just hit submit at the bottom. This is very nice because they can see any files the student attached. They can also add them. So if they see the student needs high school transcripts or ACT scores, they can do it here instead of sending in an email later. And then they also have the ability to make comments. So if they want to comment on something specific, if they know this, hey, I get emails all the time from the person who does this saying, hey, the student has 1 class they're taking. They can take as many classes they want. Or, hey, the student's really only has room in their schedule to take 1 or 2 classes. Please work with them on that. Or, so it allows us to communicate early on in this process in the original application instead of back and forth in email later. And then they also see any comment that the parent in this case made. So they are asking, how does this fit in my student's schedule? That's the person who can answer it. So they can know, hey, this parent is concerned about this. I can reach out to them. If it's something, that's something Madison College will handle it. They can ignore it, but they see it. And then the communication on this one is it goes to the parent and the student, just saying, hey, in this case, Marshall High School has submitted her Start College Now application to the early college office. So it then tells them they should be expecting next steps from our office in 2 business days. So they should be getting something from me or one of my colleagues about what those next steps are. So again, it's really that communicating to them that this is all completed and now they're going to start hearing from our office. That's all the external stuff. The internal is very quick. It's just really this 1 page. But the great thing about it, we ultimately approve. So you saw in that way back in that first page when we were looking at that workflow, the big chunk over to the right side was just getting it into PeopleSoft. So obviously now it's all in PeopleSoft, so we can start putting in some of our initial things. This is great because I no longer, I do, but in a lot of, but we do have staff turnover in office. This tells me automatically on this form that these classes are the ones I need ACT scores or Accuplacer scores, and it tells me if the student has these on file at the very bottom. So I know right away if I need to go back to the school or back to the student and say, hey, I need these ACT scores, or I know what my next step is. So it's all right there. I don't have to go from one system into another to find this information. It's all right in front of me in this application. All of our stuff is pulled in, so there's no advisors or there's no person assigned to this right now, so that's why it's all blanked. But if it was assigned to me, it would come in with my information. We assign one of our advisors to it, a student group. So we use student groups in our system to tag them for our records. So we have YOAP is actually our Start College Now student. So we put that on them right here. And then that's where it takes us to our last page, which is just the button to completely approve it. At the bottom of this page is the next. I just ran out of room on there. And then we hit approve. We could deny it. I will tell you in the course that I've been here 5 years, we have never denied a form. There are about 3 reasons we can deny a form, and none of them have ever happened since I've been here. And I've never seen it denied. And before I came to the college, I was a high school Start College Now and counselor and person who did all this at a high school, and I've never seen a form denied by a technical college. So, but I could recycle it back. So like if something came in and it was for some reason not making sense to me, I could recycle it back or reroute it or do something different. Again, we haven't had to do that yet. So the goal was when we built the form to have to avoid this, but we can't. We still have the ability to reroute it back to this high school if we need something. There's a lot of different ins and outs that would take way too much time of why we would do that. But we do have that option with the form. We hit approve, and what that does in our system is we have a custom-made early college dashboard that pulls all this information into a dashboard for me to work with the students throughout their process. Once I hit approve, it's going to put that application and all the information on the student into that dashboard for me to continue to work with them through their semester and through the registration process. And then, as you can see, when we put the GT form state, it adds that parent part in there, that second box, but it hasn't made anything for our external partners more complex. And we actually think and have seen that it's easier because we're not making them go through multiple places to do everything. But then you see at the very big part is that last little 2 steps, that's all it takes from our office to get it into the dashboard. So we lost all of those steps along the way to get it there. So that was a lot. I know I threw a lot at you. It's very complex. I try to simplify it as much as possible. As I said, I don't. Scott's team that we worked with can tell you about how many conversations that it took for them to completely understand what the form was and how our internal processes were currently, and it was a lot of back and forth, and we had a lot of they were able to give us solutions, but also ask us questions that allowed us to look at internal processes. I think one of the cool things about any type of project like this is it allows you to look internally and at yourself as well as what are we doing? Does this part need to be done? Does it not need to be done? So there are parts of the stuff we really thought needed to be there that we've ultimately kind of ushered out. It's a any type of project learn a lot about yourself as a unit, as a person. Am I doing things the right way? Are we doing things the right way? So I think we got about 10 minutes left for questions. If there's other questions.
I'm just going to say that was a great presentation, a great overview, Jeremy. And it's an awesome solution that you guys have created. Obviously, you have significantly improved the experience for everybody who touches that forms process. Do you envision it having an impact on enrollment, increasing students?
Yes, I think that, I think so part of my job is I actually go out and I work with students in their high schools, and I get to talk to them and I get to hear them and their frustrations, and one of the big frustrations we're talking about is them not understanding that they need to do additional things to enroll in a class. So, that's where I said a lot of those students said, oh, I really want to take a class, but, I'm not a good test taker. I don't want to take this test. Or, like those are the things, is knowing that up front with them, we have a lot of great options that allow students not to have to take a test to start their first college experience. And then we see is once a student takes that first class, whatever it is, and are successful, then those other barriers fall off. They're like, hey, I can do college. I could probably take this 20 question reading test if I really need to now. Like they build that confidence. And once they have that, they take more classes. Like we know when a student is successful in that first class, more than likely they're coming back for that second or that third class. There's a few things in there that they're called out a little bit, but I glanced over. Like we have academies that are small and large that students can take. We're able to, some of that is in the application now. So one of those questions about some of those advising things are you interested in an academy? Well, if you ask a student that, they're probably like, oh, I don't know what that is. Well, there's a little thing that says, what is an academy? It takes them to our website. It tells them what it is and why you might want to do it. And what they are, there are short-term credentials that students can get, like a welding credential with like 6 credits, or a marketing credential that's 15 credits. And, it really helps them understand, like, I can graduate from high school with a college technical diploma, or I can do this, or, so it allows us also to kind of show them more throughout the process that we have these options available. And some of the other forms that we work with your team to create, we have our STEM Academy form, which is our biggest academy. It's a 2-year program. So, it's a more simple form. It's not a whole lot of routing in there compared to this one, but there is still some back and forth between schools and parents there. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I just having you go through all of the things that went into designing this form, all the different things that you had to account for, transforming it from a PDF to something that is a dynamic, interactive, supportive process. One of the things that we frequently talk with organizations about is the fact that you could build all this stuff custom in some programming language or development tool set, whether that is People Tools or some third-party application. But one of the big benefits I think that a tool like GT eForms brings to automating a process like this is that it gives you a structure. It gives you a tool that's designed to accommodate all of these different permutations and all of this complex logic and all the different requirements that a process like this has for Madison College, as opposed to trying to think about how you custom code, develop a custom software application to accommodate all of this, in addition to rethinking your business process and trying to envision what could this look like if we did it this way.
Yeah, and I know so I've shifted roles over the years, well, in the 5 years I've been here. And when this project first started, we were in a lot of debates. So about how much do we do internal? What do we do external? And so that was a big conversation, is like when we first started every part of this program, and I said, this was one piece of a 3-year project that has multiple different solutions in it for different programs. We do have our department alone. One has been shifted since this whole project started, but we had 6 different programs. So we had 6 different programs we were managing under it, and we wanted to try to do as much of this in-house as possible, and it got to that point where we were like, maybe this isn't the right way. So when we, for different things, we had to go out and find the right people and the right solutions for it, because you want to try to keep it in-house as much as possible, but then there's that time where you're like, okay, we need something more. We need something we can't do, or we don't have. It's not maybe we don't have the ability to do, but we don't have the manpower. We don't have the time commitment from our technology services to build this form. We don't have the knowledge, the right person, the knowledge, or we haven't done this before. I think we now know what it takes. So I think any department down the line at Madison College who wants to do guest access or do other things like this, we now have a foundation for them that they didn't have, that we didn't have when we started it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other thing.
Anybody have any final questions? Excuse me, before we wrap things up and let Jeremy get off to lunch. Well, if anything comes to mind after this for the folks that are attending, certainly feel free to shoot us an email. My email is simply scott@gideontaylor.com. If you want to reach out to Jeremy, is there a way that folks could reach out to you with questions?
Yeah, my email is pretty quick and easy. It's J Walden with the number 1, because that's how we do our emails. It's the number of J Waldens there are in our system. But jwalden1@madisoncollege.edu. So just my first initial, last name, and the number 1 at madisoncollege.edu.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. On behalf of everyone here, Jeremy, this was great. As I mentioned earlier, folks will get a link to watch the recording. Feel free to watch it as many times as you want and nominate Jeremy for whatever awards you think might be appropriate. We've appreciated everybody attending today. And just as a reminder, these lunch and learns we try to schedule on a monthly basis. They're intended to provide people with an idea of what other organizations are doing with GT eForms, and even if the specific solution might not be a fit for your organization, it should give you ideas on different features and functions that organizations like Madison College are using GT eForms to automate. So maybe there's a piece, a nugget of Jeremy's presentation that stuck with you that might be applicable to some process that you might have for student-facing automation or employee or manager-facing automation, or really any audience that you want to engage in eForms automation. So again, thank you very much. We look forward to having you join us for future webinars. And again, Jeremy, one last thank you to you. Hope you have a great afternoon.